So here we are with the end of the mock 5, 2022 EOM CAT 5. Let's understand the quant section. Quite a diversified section this time. Algebra had a lot of questions. Linear equation, total there were 26 questions. In algebra, there was one question from linear equations which was a little difficult. A moderate question from quadratic equations. 2 questions from surge and indices, one easy, one moderate. Logarithms, there was one question which was easy. Set theory, a difficult question. So that was algebra. In arithmetic, if we see, again, numbers did have a little bit of a weightage, higher weightage as usual. 4 questions, 2 easy, 2 moderate. Percentage, there was a question which was easy. Profit and loss, easy question. Ratio, easy. SICI, easy question. Averages, there was a moderate question. Allegations and mixtures, there was an easy question. A moderate question from time and work. Time, speed, distance had 3 questions. One set of 2 questions which were difficult and one easy. Permutation combination, one difficult question. Difficulty, ideally not very difficult, but just a little bit difficult. 3 questions from probability which had 1 easy and 2 difficult ones. From geometry, there were just 2 questions, one from triangles and one from mensuration, both being moderate. So a well spread out paper as such. And there were a total of 12 easy questions. 8 moderate and 6 difficult ones. Let's look at the questions as they were in the order. The first was a question on percentages, easy. A gives some marbles to B, B returns. Now, this is a very easy question. You can start with numbers. You can do a bit of theory with X, Y, Z variables, or you can simply have a number. Start with some number that A has 100 marbles or something, and then you can solve. So a very easy question. Not even lengthy, not even lengthy. This is something doable. Nobody should have missed this question. The second was a mensuration question. Yes, this was moderate. Maybe geometry might not have happened in your class, in your batch. So maybe you are not prepared for it. A small part of geometry and a small part of equations. So for those who have gone through mensuration, this should have been a moderate question. Not very difficult. The only thing that might confuse is weights rather than volume. Something is about weights. So volume and weight would be the same because they have the same material. The third question was from linear equations. Not difficult, but yes, I'll still think of it as a bit difficult because there are 3 variables, 2 equations given, and a third dependent equation has been asked, the value of the third equation. So maybe a little bit difficult, yes. So maybe this could have been avoided. The fourth question was of profit and loss, an easy question. Easy question. Start with some variables or start with some numbers and you will have an answer. So this was an easy question. Profit is mentioned, discount is mentioned. You can find the actual values by, just they're assuming the actual values and then solve for the given case. Easy question, should not have been missed. A moderate question from numbers. Had it been just A, B, C, D, E, F, I would have called it an easier question. Had it been A, B, C, A, B, C, I would have called it a very easy question. It's something that you've done in classrooms. Just because of A, B, C, D, E, F, A, B, C, I am calling it a moderate question. And why is the numbers less than 500? Because you want to double it. When you want to double it, it should not become a 4-digit number. So that's the reason why the number ABC is less than 500. So I'm sure by looking at the question solution, you will realize that yes, this was easy, at least if not easy, moderate. So moderate question, I'll call it for right now. This question, maybe somebody could, 98 percentiler could have attempted it. If anybody wants 98 percentile, they should have attempted this. Others could have avoided this. Chalega. Again, a question on numbers. Successive division. I think this should be easy, not moderate. I've called it moderate, but I still feel like calling it easy. The only thing that makes it moderate is how many values of n are possible. That is something that makes it moderate. Getting the smallest such number, I think everybody would have got it. But then how to get the next numbers, that might confuse you. So let's call it moderate. But for a 98 percentiler, this could have been done. A question from surds and indices, or maybe you can call it numbers also, because it's more to do with identities opening up a bracket. The better part, of course, is opening a bracket. You should know a plus b raised to 5. How do you open that binomial expansion? So binomial expansion would have made this question quite easy. So I'm calling it easy question. Binomial expansion is what should have been known. At least 98 percentiler would know that. Somebody could have missed it. Okay, not a big problem. The next question is a numbers question, or more to do with quadratic equations or polynomials or inequalities, whatever you call it. All the possible values of x that satisfy the equation. The only thing, of course, I think we should have mentioned all the possible, even if repeated. If some values are repeated, maybe we don't know from far off whether it is repeated or not. So if that had been mentioned, it would have become actually a very easy question for those who know the secret. But let's call it moderate for now. Let's call it moderate for now. If I go back to that question, the secret, of course, is what is the summation of the roots? For any polynomial, the summation of the roots should be known. It is minus b by a. That means the coefficient of the second largest degree divided by the coefficient of the largest degree, and with a negative sign. That is the summation of all the possible roots, even if there is a duplication. So this could have been very easy. And here, if you see, the coefficient of the largest term in each of the brackets is just 1. So summation of the roots is simply negative of the second term. For example, in the first bracket, it's 5. So it's minus 5. Summation of roots is minus 5. From the second bracket, it will be plus 6 and so on. If that secret is known to a 98 percentiler, he would have done this question within a very short while. The next question is a quadratic equations question, a moderate question, not a difficult question, not an easy one also. You know the summation of the roots. What is summation of the roots? You know what is the product of the roots. The only thing is to understand this sentence. The sum of the squares of the roots equals the square of the sum of the roots. Now, luckily, there is no multiplication. This is 7 times that, 6 times that. So even if somebody had made a mistake in understanding what is the square of the roots and sum of the squares and square of the sum, even if somebody had made a mistake on the left hand side, right hand side, both would be wrong, and ultimately it will become incorrect. So even if somebody had made a mistake, they would be probably getting a right answer. Mistake of understanding what is summation of the squares and what is square of the sum, even then you would have got a right answer. So this was all about summation of squares and summation of roots and product of roots. Should be doable by almost everybody. The next is a question on numbers. I will call it not easy, but very easy. Which of the following is the least, given that x is minus something, negative? Just don't worry about 0.5, it's negative. And if you see the option, there's only one option which gives you a negative value. 3 gives you 3 options are positive, 1 option is negative. So obviously the negative one has to be the least. A very easy question. Surds and indices, I could call it easy actually, because such questions have been discussed in your books. There is an exercise, a question in almost very similar question in your exercise also. All you do is replacement, and that gives you an answer. So not difficult. Let's just call it moderate. So doable. Ratios, apply component or dividend. You observe that it is 2a plus 3b, 2a minus 3b. That clearly should give you a hint that this is component or dividendo. And that should be done very fast. So this is an easy question not to be missed by anybody. Looks lengthy. But if you observe that it's component or dividendo, it's easy. Doable. The next is a simple interest, compound interest. Again, an easy question, but dangerous one. This has a danger. 6 times in 15 years, 12 times in how many? I'm sure a lot of people might be tempted to say, 30. That would be wrong. That would be wrong. So just do a little bit of theory, and this will be easy. If you get it wrong, look at the solutions, understand that, and understand why you got it wrong. Should be worried about this being wrong, but next time it should not happen. The next is a averages question. Question on averages, a moderate one, not difficult. Concept-based question. That is why moderate, otherwise easy. So how to get the difference? How to get this difference? It is not the average which remains the same on both the sides. It's actually the total which remains the same. So from the given difference, the score of 4 top is 28 marks more than the average. So it's not 28. The difference on both sides will not be 28, but total 28 marks, 4 students. So what will be the total? So this total more on the other side will be the same, total less. From the average, go to the total on one side, go to the total on the next side, and then come back to the average on the next side. That should make it quite easy otherwise. So let's call it an average question right now. Maybe everybody might not have solved this. Maybe a 98 percentiler could have solved this. The next is an allegations mixture question. Conceptually quite simple. Questions like this could be difficult, but here it's to be reversed. Reversed and then again reversed. When you reverse the ratio and again reverse it, it comes back to the same. So that actually makes it very simple. This is an easy question. If you miss this, look at the solution, try to understand the solution very well. Something should be very easy. For a 98 percentiler, this should have been easy, and he should have done that. He or she should have done that. This question. A time and work question, not very difficult. Maybe not difficult, just moderate. 17 people can do a work. They are on first day, all 17 do it, then second day 16, then 15 till 1. Now if 18 people start, in how many days will it be done? So we can calculate the total work done, and we can do a direct solution, we can do an indirect solution. Both would be quite fair enough. Maybe I'm not calling it easy, but okay, let's call it moderate. Because you might have to solve an AP. Somebody could have actually written down the numbers. If you had nothing else to do, you could written down 18, 17, 16 and try to manage the same. So let's call it just moderate question. There were 2 questions on time, speed, distance. Particle being injected in this looks like a great physics question, but you know that it is time, speed, distance. All you have to do is understand the solution, understand the data, and try to solve in steps. Yes, this was difficult. This was difficult. Maybe it is almost everybody could have avoided it. I'll still not be unhappy. You avoid such a question, it's okay. Leave such questions. So there were 2 of these. Races, easy. Easy question on races. Maybe you can do it mentally, maybe sometimes mentally. If the numbers are a little bit favorable mentally, and here the numbers are in your favor. If you actually work out the numbers, they will be in your favor. A little bit of a courage will show that yes, you can do it mentally. Anyway, in the exam, I would have expected you to do it after writing it because you don't know that it is easy or moderate. So write it, do it, write a little few numbers, and you will see that it was easy. Ratio numbers are all fantastic. Okay. Summation of all the digits, something that you've done in the class. I would have called this an easy question if the zero had not been there. Just because of that zero, I am tempted to call it difficult. Just because of that zero. If it were just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, the answer would be very, very, very fast and easy. So because of the zero, that's where you are tempted to make an error. So let's call it difficult, or maybe actually moderate also, but let's classify it as difficult right now. The next three questions are probability. A community wedding, people from Mumbai, Bangalore, and Delhi. And the probability questions. Yes, these were difficult. Out of these three, two were difficult and one would be easy. This was difficult. The first one would have been a bit of difficult question. This question would have been easy. What is the probability that the both participants from Delhi married within Delhi itself? Well, the two girls from Delhi would marry the two girls, or three boys from Delhi would marry three girls from Delhi. And then very soon, if you just do this much, think of this much, you'll realize that this is not possible. The probability would be zero. This question was easy. So don't leave, if there is a set of questions, don't leave the entire set. One of the questions in the set could have been easy. This should not have been missed. At least not by the 98 percentiler. This was difficult. So just because it was impossible to happen, that middle question became easy. The others were difficult. And as I said, I wouldn't be sad if you leave a difficult question. The next is a set theory question. A single question on set theory. People might be confused here, but there are three independent categories, male and female. So you can make three circles. One circle can represent males, and anybody outside the circle is a female. One circle for young, for example, then anybody outside that circle would be old. In the same way, with disease and without disease. Make a circle for disease. So you make three circles, male, young, and old. Male, young, and diseased. Anybody outside a particular circle will be not that. So draw a Venn diagram and try to get the answers. I'm single answer. But yes, I'll call this difficult. I'm classifying this as difficult. Maybe it should have been avoided in the exam. We have lots of other things to do. What do you think about this question? Difficult? No. Moderate? No. Easy? No. This is very easy. This is very easy. You don't need a pen to solve such questions. Believe me, this is very easy question. Right? Only you need to know a secret. You need to know a secret. That will happen only. Don't worry if your chapter has not happened. Today, if your chapter has not happened, you will not know what to do with this question. You just don't know what to do. So leave it. Today, you can leave it. But if you have gone through this chapter, this should have been very easy. I, of course, will not tell you right now what is the secret. The last question was a triangles question. And it is somewhere between easy and moderate. Let's just call it moderate. It's between easy and moderate. All you have to do was use one of the equations for area of a triangle, half AB sine theta. Knowing that equation, the solution could have come very, very fast. Right? So that's it about these questions. These were the 26 questions. So if I see there were 12 easy, 8 moderate, and 6 difficult. A 98 percentiler can miss just one easy. One easy question you miss, it's okay. Out of the 8 moderate, I would expect you to do attempt 5. And maybe 1 out of those 6 difficult ones. 1. So I would expect a 17 attempts, a total of 17 attempts by a 98 percentiler. And that gives us this breakup. Expected attempts, 17, maybe 2 wrong, 15 correct, 2 wrong, 43 is the score for 17 percentile. 98 percentile, 17 attempts. And this is the breakup. 98 percentile at 43 marks. If we go up, 99 percentile should be somewhere around 50 marks. And 100 at 57. 100 percentiler should do a lot more than 98. There should be a big difference. 95 percentile can be achieved at just 36 marks. Imagine you are attempting only the 12 easy ones and not making a single mistake. 95 percentiler cannot make mistakes in easy ones. Of course, you can attempt one more of the moderate ones and make one mistake, that is okay. 90 percentile can be achieved just at 30 marks. Attempting 10 of those easy ones, missing out 2. Or maybe doing one more of moderate and having 1 error. 80 percentile is just at 24 marks. 24 marks could have given you 80 percentile. So this is the expected percentile versus score for EOM 5. Do analyze all the questions. The purpose of the test is not to scold you. The purpose of the test is dual. To test, of course, first, and then to improve on your weaknesses. Identify your weaknesses, understand why you missed a few easy ones. Try to understand questions as easy, moderate, difficult. Whether to attempt or not to attempt, when to attempt. Should it be attempted at the first trial or at the second trial? Should you try something else right now? So try to develop those understandings of the taking of the EOMs. Analyze this very well. And let's hope you have a better score, a better performance at EOM 6. So, okay, good day to all.
Okay, let's begin with the analysis of the DILR section of 2022 EOM CAT 5. So we will be looking at 4 broad areas. We will be looking at question mapping in terms of difficulty level, number of expected attempts, expected score, and the percentile score mapping. So let us begin with the question mapping in terms of difficulty level. Now the first easy set was a set on selection. So there was a game played between 2 teams. From each team, 6 players had to be there. We had attackers, midfielders, defenders. Various formations were possible: 3-2-1, 3-1-2, 2-2-2. We had various players: A, B, C, D, F, G, H, J, and K. Some of them were attackers, some of them defenders, some of them midfielders. Various conditions were given. A can be selected only if K is selected, and so on. So here what we had to do was, first of all, we had to take a look at the questions. And having taken a look at the questions, we could have understood that here we have to find out all the possible combinations, all the possible teams that can be formed. And after listing down all the possible combinations, we could have easily answered the questions. So listing down all the combinations was not very difficult, would have taken 7 to 8 minutes, as long as we had proceeded calmly and systematically. And therefore, in a maximum of 10 minutes, we could have easily answered all of the questions from this set. So this was definitely an easy set that should not have been missed. The next easy set was a set in which we had a test series. So Suresh was taking a test series in which there were 3 types of tests: take home, EOM, and exact CAT. Now each type of test had 10 tests to be taken over 10 weeks, and Suresh took them in a certain order. Now the questions were based on this order and also on the fact that in the table that is provided, the last digit of each of the scores are missing. So we could see that the last digit for any of these values could be anything from 0 to 9. And based on those possibilities and based on the order in which Suresh took the test, we had to answer the questions. Now, 2 questions from here were very easy. That should have been definitely have been attempted. 2 other questions, they were not difficult, but then they were very calculative. A lot of calculations were involved. And therefore, if you fell short on time, it was advisable to skip those 2 questions if there was not enough time, if it was too calculative for you. So 2 questions could definitely have been attempted, should have been attempted. And the other 2 questions could have been attempted if at the end you had enough time and you could do all the calculations. You could have used the calculator for the 2 questions that were calculation intensive. Next, we had an easy set based on set theory, Venn diagrams. So this set might have appeared difficult if you hadn't taken the time to go through it, but it was definitely an easy set. All the information was provided. We just had to form the various Venn diagrams, fill in the information, do the calculation, and answer the questions. As simple as that. This was a very basic set. Questions were basic. Making the Venn diagrams, plugging in the information, all of it was basic level. And therefore, this one definitely should have been attempted. So maximum of 10 minutes it would have taken, but all 4 questions could easily have been attempted. Next, we had a moderate set. So this was a set that many people probably would have tried enthusiastically because the information provided in this set was minimal. It was very easy to read. In half a minute, maximum 1 minute, you could have read this set. And you would have thought, okay, this is an easy set. There is only this much information I have to consider. But if you were not familiar with these types of sets, you might have found it difficult, or you might have attempted questions only to later find out that you did not get the correct answers. So this was a maxima minima set. And this was not a difficult set. It was a moderate set. Only thing that was required was prior experience with these types of questions. So if you did not have experience when you attempted this set, please make sure that you revise, that you look at the solutions, think about it for a while on your own, so that you become comfortable with these types of sets. So from this set also, 1 or 2 questions could definitely have been attempted. Next 2 questions, if you were not sure, if it was taking too much time, then you could have skipped. But if you had applied some basic logic, played around a little bit with the values, you could have attempted almost all the questions of this set. Next, we had a difficult set. We had a puzzle here. So we had 5 children. They were playing a game in which they had to pick up a digit from 0 to 9 in each round. Then the digits picked up by them were arranged in descending order to form the largest possible 5-digit number of that round. Okay, then we had the various numbers that were formed in no particular order. Winner of the game was the one who picked the greatest digit of the largest number of all 4 rounds taken together. Okay, now we had various conditions. So this set is also a set that many people might have started off with, might have spent some time on, only to leave it after a while. Because this was a difficult set, there were many factors we had to consider, many possibilities we had to consider and eliminate, and all of that would have taken a lot of time. So if someone did attempt it and managed to get it right, and got it right in a short period of time, that is great. But if you did attempt it and it took you a lot of time, maybe it took you 15 minutes, 20 minutes, then you have to think, was it worth it? Could I have spent that time on the easier sets, which I might have missed out on because I spent a lot of time on this difficult set? So think about that. And also, this was definitely a set in which there were lots of learnings. Difficult sets have a lot of learnings. So make sure that you go through the solution, that you revise it, so that if such a set comes again, or if another set that is difficult comes again, you at least have some idea in which you are supposed to proceed, or at least you will be able to identify difficult sets and leave them for the end. Now we will come to expected attempts and expected score. So here, the first set was the set on selection of teams, easy set, 6 questions, all 6 should have been attempted. Next, the set on endeavor test series, out of which 2 questions were easy. two were easy enough, but time consuming. So out of the 4 total questions, 2 definitely should have been attempted. Then the set on set theory, which was easy. All 4 questions should definitely have been attempted. Then the maxima minima set, which was moderate. And out of the 4 questions, 3 could have been attempted. Maybe you would have got 1 or 2 wrong, but at least you could have attempted 3. Then the last set on puzzles, which was the puzzle set, which was a difficult set. And this set ideally should have been skipped or kept for the end after you had taken care of the other sets. So this one, 6 questions, all of them could have been skipped. So out of the total 24 questions, 15 attempts ideally should have been there. And out of these 15 attempts, even if you got 3 incorrect and 12 correct, you would have ended up with a score of 33, which would have fetched you roughly 98 percentile. And now with that, we come to the percentile score mapping. So as I said, for 98 percentile, a score of 33 would have been enough. For 80 percentile, score of 17, 90 percentile, score of 23, 95 percentile, score of 28, 99 percentile, score of 43, and 100 percentile, score of 57. With that, we come to the end of the DILR analysis.
Yes, people, and we're back. We are back with the analysis of, we are actually way far behind with this analysis. Sorry for the delay. There was something that we could not control, and even today I'm coughing badly, so I really don't know. Anyways, EOM CAT 5, same old parameters of analysis, depending on your level, what you should have done. The slide that most of you wait for, that comes at the end on what should have been the approach. Planning, selection, sequencing, focusing on familiarity, and then focusing on whatever your strengths are. Again, so many of you have not been taught verbal logic yet, which means more or less in this particular paper, just like a lot of previous papers, your strength still remains reading comprehension, and maybe you can try summaries because we did teach you summaries at some point. And then finally, time allocation. How much do you give to reading comprehension and summaries, and how much do you give to the verbal logic questions? So this is what your overall paper was. 26 questions, 40 minutes. Yes, a sort of a surprise for some of you who did not expect 26 questions. They were probably more lined up for 24. But yeah, we had also announced that almost every third or fourth test, be ready for a surprise because the CAT notification is not out yet. And we wanted to be prepared for all possible scenarios. So the only thing that we changed was instead of 16 questions in a reading comprehension, we made it 18, which means 2 passages had an extra question. Instead of 4, they had 5 questions. Everything else remains the same. Overall difficulty level, moderate. You might want to consider this paper because the increased number of questions, you might think that it was a moderate to difficult paper, but no, it wasn't. And our tagline, our summary of this paper is, the gamer is only as good as the game. The sentence means that if you come across something that you don't expect, how quickly do you adapt to the new format? That will decide whether you are a really good gamer or you are just someone who excels at whatever his familiar area is, but then struggles with everything else. Right then, so first passage, reading comprehension, passage, current affairs, tech-driven education, clearly taken from an article most probably last year. Everybody has heard or read or commented on this, on the idea of online education or remote education. Undoubtedly one of the best passages in the entire group of 4. Overall difficulty level, easy to moderate. Why? Because it was really easy to read. Questions were also not so tough. If you see the combination of questions, there was 1 difficult question and there were 3 moderate questions. So inference, the gist, and the logical purpose, all 3 of them were moderate. The mention in the passage, which was an except question, somehow there were 2 answer choices that would have appealed to you. So yeah, that was a question which could have taken you more time than the other questions. And plus, it was a question that, see, we will always judge difficulty levels relative. So this kind of a question, if it comes late in the test, could be called moderate. But when it comes early in the test, the amount of time and effort that it takes from you, it is difficult. Second passage was my avocados, the best passage, undoubtedly, without a doubt, the best passage in this entire paper. Easy to read, very easy to moderate questions. There were two mentioned in the passage, out of which the only reason eighth is moderate is you'll have to literally go and verify each answer choice if you did not read the passage properly. If you read the passage properly and if you are making notes and approach that we teach you and we remind you with every RC class, if you made notes, eighth question was barely 30 seconds. If you did not make notes, this question would have taken you almost 2 minutes. But otherwise, all three questions, 6, 7, and 8, all of them were worth less than 1 minute. And the fifth was anyways a sitter question. So a passage that everybody should have attempted, a passage that most of you should have gotten most of the answers correct. And as life is, the easiest is followed by the toughest. Later in the analysis, I have said that if I were in your place, I would have skipped this entire passage. But most of you did not skip. Reason, it was too familiar a topic. Everybody, so many of you who are preparing for that have read about B.R. Ambedkar and Mahatma Gandhi. Most of the times because they are two of the most famous characters in Indian history, but also because it just keeps coming up in the papers thanks to the current government and the opposition parties. Overall difficulty level moderate to difficult. Why? The reading wasn't difficult. The questions were difficult. For example, the first question. Very difficult question. I mean, difficult question. Why? You don't understand the word Excel says. How do you answer the question? Gist was an easy question, yes. But then compared to that 10th question, the gist question, you had a 13th question, which was if false, then weaken. And in case you haven't realized yet, this is a question that you always want to attempt at the end, if at all. Most of you should, if you're not great with verbal logic, if you're not great with weaken questions, please avoid this question. Just make it a benchmark that you want to avoid this question unless there is nothing else to do in the entire section. So we had an applied information, which was difficult. We had an inference question where the answer choices literally ran into 25-30 words, never appealing question type. And then finally, I had one more passage. This was again not so difficult to read because most of you are aware of black holes. You heard them or you read about black holes somewhere or the other. Not so difficult to read, but the questions were a sort of a mixed bag. Like this wasn't as tough as the previous one, but this wasn't as easy as passage number 2 also. Because as you can see, there are 2 difficult questions, 2 moderate questions, and 1 easy question. So on a usual day, in a passage like this, you expect to get maybe around 3 correct, best case 4 correct out of 5. But getting 5 out of 5 correct would be a massive challenge. Again, a lot of inferences as it should be. One applied information question, again, difficult only because those answer choices are way too lengthy. And then there was an inference question, which on first review or first perspective, that question feels like there are multiple possible correct answers. So yeah, and the mentioning passage, which again, because you had to verify 3 out of 4, takes some time. But 18th question, I'm sure a lot of you will not agree that it was an easy question. It was an easy question if you did not overthink. If you overthought, if you went into overdrive in terms of justifying the question, then I really don't know. Because you taught you to not overthink. Right then, 3 summary questions. Somehow, summary questions should now make you worry that you want to attempt them, but you never want to take them lightly. So whether it is Nietzsche's equality and promise or authenticity of Buddha, the blandness, something that you should realize now. Summary questions, because the passages are really short, they can be really bland. They're never exciting to read. Even bottom of the pyramid, the passage was easy to read, no doubt. But if you had a long passage of that type, you would be interested more in that passage. A short passage, because it ends abruptly, sometimes you start understanding the passage and you're like, oh, this is done. The passage just ended. So 1 difficult, 1 moderate, 1 easy. Same old problem. 21st and 20th, not so tough to read. And then 20th, you still had close answer choices. 21st, the only summary question that you've seen easy in a long time. 22nd, the strong order, difficult. near impossible to find the incorrect one, simply because if you arrange them in a sequence, most of you will end up arranging all 5 of them. So then how to figure out which one is incorrect? It was a difficult one. We've had debates on that question, and it is the finer script in the question. I hope you will read the explanation and enjoy or understand why paying attention to such minor details is helpful. On the other hand, 23rd, very, very straightforward. Again, same condition. If you don't deliberately complicate. If you went too much into American urbanism, then you would again be sitting with the same problem. Sir, I can link all 5 of them. You cannot link all 5 of them because you have to stop relating sentences through assumptions. You can't use assumptions to relate sentences. And your last 3 questions are paraexamples. 3 paraexamples, one moderate, one very difficult, one fairly easy. You would find it easy only if you did not get stuck to the 25th one, because 24th was easy. Yes, I mean, it was moderate if you avoided the trap of 1 as introduction. 26th, extremely easy, but then 25th, you have 2 pairs of 2 sentences each, and you're wondering what exactly happened here. What exactly happened? I don't know what happened. You just have to rearrange the 2 of them, and that's never easy. So, this is what your paper looked like. 6 easy questions, expected attempts, all 6 of them. Moderate, 10. I would expect that you attempt more of moderate and less of difficult, but if you ended up doing the other way around, if you attempted only 8 or 7 moderate questions and you got more of difficult correct, fine with me, as long as you're giving me 19 and 15. The problem is if you attempted very difficult and got them wrong. Those are the bombs that you want to start identifying now. So what should you have done? You should have gotten me 19 attempts and 15 correct. How? Start with the passage number 2. Passage number 2, you give it 6 to 7 minutes and get me 4 attempts and 4 correct, because if you have been preparing for CAT for more than 8-9 months now, passage 2 is precisely the kind of passage where in 6 to 7 minutes you can get 4 attempts and 4 correct. You go from passage number 2 to passage number 1, same targets, because 2 gave you more confidence. Yes, it is still possible to maybe give an extra 1 minute to passage number 1. If passage 2, you got me 4 attempts, 4 correct in 6 to 7 minutes, you can make it 7 to 8 minutes. But you still have to give me 4 attempts and 4 correct. Then comes the passage number 4. Passage 4, you might take slightly more time, also because there are 5 questions. So maybe around 8 to 9 minutes, 5 attempts and 4 correct. And then I said it earlier, if I were you, I would not attempt passage 2 at all, or I would only attempt passage 2 questions in passage number 3. So yes, this is not passage 2, it is passage number 3. So passage 3, I would give it like 4 to 5 minutes and get 2 correct and exit the passage. There is absolutely zero sense in trying to spend too much time on the passage. Instead, I would go to the other question types, which you are slowly and gradually becoming more comfortable with. So paraexamples, out of context, and summary questions. Yes, you should observe by now that when we say 19 attempts and 15 correct, and thereby I arrive at a good score of 15 into 3, 45 minus 4 incorrect, you can see in this table, and you will see it in a lot of my analysis also. A lot of times intentionally we calculate a negative marking for questions where you don't have a negative marking. So that is like giving you a 1 mark advantage. Like if you got me 19 attempts and 15 correct, my prediction is you would be sitting at a 41, but maybe you would be sitting at a 43. And a 43 is so much better than 41. So this is what you should have done, and this is what you needed for a 98th percentile, 19 attempts, 15 correct, gives you what? Just under 80% accuracy, which is okay, because if this paper had fewer questions, maybe your accuracy would have been more because you would not have been so stressed. From 41 to 64, 50% increase in marks, more than 50% actually, to go from 98 to 100 percentile. Yep. Absolutely, yes. Verbal can be tough when you want to reach that 100 percentile. On the other hand, between 80 percentile and 100 percentile, the jump is nearly 2.3, 2.4 times. Otherwise, the same old calculation. I always tell you the same thing. 80 to 90, you need to get 2 extra correct. 90 to 95, you need to get 1 extra correct along with 1 less incorrect. 95 to 98, same old 1 and 1. And then 98 to 99, it would be so much easier if you got me 2 more correct and 2 less incorrect, or maybe 3 more correct, whatever suits you. 99, amazing score for this paper, 99 percentile or a score of 51. But depending on where you stand, yep, you should be targeting anywhere between. So if you have been, that's what we tell you in every analysis. If you started your CAT preparation barely 3 months ago, give a test. That is more important than targeting a score. You will have your one-to-ones coming up very soon. We will tell you what should be your targets if you started only 3 months ago. But if you started more than 3 months and between 6 months ago, you're right there to target at least an 80 percentile with every form, probably an 85 or 90 percentile. And anybody who started the preparation more than 8 to 10 months ago, people who started last year, you are just there to women. Your target has to be a 95 percentile with every mock, only because if you are not getting a 95 percentile, just wait for a month or 1.5 months, and everybody who started in the last 3-4 months, they'll be sitting at a 95 percentile. And they'll show you how to get a 95 percentile. So if that is the case, if you want a lot of people to get there, specifically people who started after you, and then you will feel the motivation, or then you will feel like, okay, others can do it, so I can also do it. Fine. Let the slack continue. So this was how your verbal would look like. Overall, also more or less not so much to play around. From 80 percentile till 100 percentile, you can see that the score has jumped from 59 to 144. So that is again more than nearly 2.5 times increase in score, as it always is. Individual scores, DILR seems to be a bit of a tough section this time. Quant, I hope it made you happy with 100% standing at 70. And in each of these sections, quant score was except 80 percentile. For some reasons, 80 percentile in quant is lower than 80 percentile in verbal. Otherwise, in all the other percentiles, quant, okay, 90 percentile also. So quant starts falling below verbal at 98 percentile. So the good scores are the same for both quant and verbal, but below that, for some reasons, yeah, quant, you need to be more precise with your accuracy. Verbal, maybe it is okay. There's not so much to worry with one question here and there. So that means that it is easier to increase your percentiles in verbal than it is in quant, because in quant, you need 2 questions to increase your percentile, and verbal, you need just 1. I love that. I absolutely love that. But anyways, so the numbers are there in front of you. Yes, your target should be that 100 or the 99.5. We are here to help you understand how will you reach that target if you ask. If you don't ask, I don't know how to help you reach that target. So that's it. That is it from our side. We'll be back very soon with the analysis of EOM CAT 6 and a schedule for your one-to-ones. Thank you so much for your time. Keep fighting. Keep striving. Don't give up. Less than 4 months to go. You absolutely have 0 options to give up. I'll see you people soon. Goodbye.